welcome your presenter, Lucy Meacock.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Hello, good evening. It's a shorter programme tonight because of Find a Family. So we've lost Anthony Wilson and found this, a warehouse in Lancashire. All will be revealed in a moment. But first, it's that satirical master of mirth, Steve Coogan.
Sound, top one, kicking. I'll have to practice that. Anyway, tonight we're talking about Acid House, and people are obviously concerned about scenes such as earlier this week. The parties were going on all through the night. There was complete chaos. The noise was deafening. People were shouting abuse. The situation got out of control and was eventually broken up. But enough about the House of Commons. We see that the falling profits of Saatchi and Saatchi are, of course, inextricably linked to the falling support for the Tories. I blame the last advertising campaign. The Tories, the poll tax, you've got to hand it to them. Or of course, the Thatcher slogan, she may be a right-wing despotic dictator, but at least she's our right-wing despotic dictator. The financial squeeze is even reaching defence. It's possible that MI5 and MI6 will merge, but why stop there? Let's have one organisation for MI5, MI6 and MFI.
Pay attention, 007. What do you know about this piece of equipment?
Well, Shara, unless I'm very much mistaken, it's a thermonuclear device developed in 1952 and smuggled out of the Soviet Union by a dissident who'd handed it over to NASA. It was then captured by a Cuban agent who sold it to the Libyans in 1969.
No, it's an MFI coffee table.
So, my archenemy Blofeld, this underground volcanic missile silo is quite impressive.
Yes, Mr. Bond, and I got it all from MFI. It would be complete if it weren't for one small missing piece.
Ah, you mean the gold diamond nuclear detonator?
No, just a small piece of plastic with a screw in it.
Oh. All the criminals these days are being played by pop stars. The Kemp brothers from Spandau Ballet are playing the Craze. Phil Collins was Buster, Roger Daltrey was Vicar. It's rumoured that David Bowie is going to play Hitler.
Let's dance, put on your jackboots and go step over Europe, Ziggo.
Or Morrissey playing Mussolini.
I'm so miserable, big fat fascist from Wally Range.
Apparently more people in Britain now travel by plane than train, so we'll be seeing BR guards on the planes.
Tickets, please. No, this ticket's not valid on a Friday. You'll have to get off.
But we're 25,000 feet up.
Look, I don't make the rules now. Off.
This week also saw National No Smoking Day. A friend of mine's quite ill after trying to wean himself off by drinking Perrier. Well, young people smoke because, well, they see themselves as the cool, lone James Dean figure walking down the rainy street with an overcoat and a fag in the corner of the mouth. And you've got to admit it, Athena wouldn't sell many James Dean posters if he was eating a pot noodle. Still, James Dean did say there's more chance of dying in a car crash than from smoking. Finally, Thatcher spoke to Nelson Mandela on the phone this week when she asked him what it was like to be completely isolated and surrounded by people who loathe and detest you. And he replied, well, you'll get used to it.
We're coming live from a warehouse somewhere in Lancashire. The location's a secret because we're talking about warehouse parties. As Lancashire sleeps, or tries to, thousands of young people descend on empty warehouses and dance. Drug dens, sex parlours, death traps. These parties have been called almost everything, but what exactly goes on? How much do you know about what happens at acid house parties?
Quite a lot. It's been a nuisance, really, for months on end.
Have you ever been to one, though?
No, I wouldn't step foot inside one.
What about the lady next to you?
No.
What do you think of them?
They're a damn right nuisance.
Yeah, gentleman next to you?
I've never been to one, but I think held in the right premises, under supervision, I think there's nothing wrong with them.
But you're not keen? In fact, there are a group of you here who aren't keen. So perhaps you might like to take some of these earplugs, because as you've never been, we're going to give you a taste of what they're all about tonight. Yes, for the first time on British television, Here's a live, legal, and rather brief acid house party. Parties sound and look like. But what effect do they have on the people living in Blackburn, Accrington, Oswestwhistle, and all the other places where they've been held? Upfront's cameras recorded one remarkable night in Lancashire.
Seed.
Well, there we have it, the extraordinary scenes in and around Blackburn over the last few weeks. Up front tonight, Ken Hind MP, a leading supporter of a new bill which could outlaw warehouse parties for good, and Tommy, one of the organisers of the party. Ken Hind, to start off with you, why do you want much tighter restrictions on these parties?
Well, you've seen the film. Why should the public have to put up with thousands, literally in some parts of the country, young people descending on the doorsteps of neighbourhoods, causing disruption, noise, breaking the law, selling drugs, effectively totally disrupting the area, and putting the lives of people who go there in danger, because the safety levels are nil, the fire regulations are non-existent, the policing is a nightmare, and nobody knows what's going to go on.
Well,
and we've seen the trouble.
We'll come on to some of those points, obviously, in tonight's programme. But do you think that a fine of, say, £20,000 or 6 months in prison for the organisers will stop the problem?
Probably. The simple reason... Oh, yeah. Because there is a vast amount of money to be made. At the moment, the promoters do not apply for licenses. Because they don't apply for licenses, they can drift away into the night with their cash when people are injured, when there's trouble with the police, when the fire regulations are broken, and we see that in the House of Commons as totally wrong.
But only probably will it solve the problem. Tommy, would it stop you from organising a party in a warehouse?
Certainly not. The man seems to be more concerned about people disappearing into the night with cash rather than safety aspects. If the parties were allowed to go ahead legally, as have been tried on several occasions, and the plug has been pulled at the last minute, people have went through the legal channels, tried to organise a legal rave, and the police and the authorities step in at the last minute and take it away. I just want to know what they're scared of, why don't they let it go?
But what about these serious risks to safety? Isn't it irresponsible to organise parties like that?
It's not irresponsible, people want it and it will go on. As yet, there hasn't been a serious disaster, although the police did try to bring one about in Nelson a few weeks ago. When they
But you say, as yet, does one have to happen before?
No, what does have to happen is this government realise that they're out of touch with the people and start issuing licences for legal raves where they can become inspected by fire chiefs and police officers alike, because it is going to go on, it won't stop.
Ken Hind, out of touch?
Definitely not. Because what these young people are not doing is talking to these people over here who have their lives disrupted. Their children can't sleep. Their lives are a nightmare. No. Surely you have a responsibility to the people of our community.
Thank you. Let's go and talk to some of the people in the audience whose lives have been disrupted. We heard from a couple before. Now, what about some others?
Well, you was asking about had we been to an acid house party. Well, I have actually been to one from my bedroom window for 4 hours for 16 weeks. We've had it outside our bedroom windows.
Now, what sorts of problems do they cause you?
It's just noise. They have the windows down, they have ghetto blasters on top of the cars, and they're blowing their horns, revving engines, shouting, bawling, and this has been going on for 16 weeks in Blackburn.
Unable to get out of your houses, can't move an inch. Next day you're picking up filth, litter. I've picked up bottles, cans, condoms. I've had...
Hang on, you'll get your chance in a minute.
We've had to go out and ask people to stop urinating in our hedges, defecating in our gardens. They use the place as toilets. They seem to think that they can do just as they please, and other people have no rights whatsoever.
How would you describe these people then?
Animals.
Okay. All right. Well, you're obviously all keen to have a say. Who's the keenest to have a say?
Yeah.
All right, the gentleman in the green.
How can he call us animals?
Well, he just did because of the things he said he'd do in his back garden.
He says we're defying people's rights. They're defying our rights. They say to us we have got to go home, we can't go and enjoy ourselves.
But come on, these people over here have got rights too, haven't they? They've got rights to a good night's sleep if they want to.
They're talking about a nightclub. They're saying for 16 weeks. They're talking, I presume they're talking about outside the set-in nightclub. Well, that is a nightclub. That is not a party. Nightclubs always create disturbances.
What about the people who live next door to a party that you go to? Don't they have a right to a good night's sleep if they want to?
But the lad's just made his point about the person who's just been told.
I would like to know who lives in industrial estates, because we have our parties in industrial estates. There's no houses in industrial estates.
Okay. Okay, the gentleman in the white T-shirt next to you, you wanted to make a point.
I didn't want to make a point.
You didn't want to make a point. Okay, you had your hands up. Okay, the blonde lady at the front.
They talk about all the congestion of the traffic, but if they was legal, then there wouldn't be a problem because they wouldn't need to keep it a secret. Everyone would know where the venue was, and you could go at what time you wanted.
Okay, so what about making them legal? Would that satisfy you?
Well, providing I don't think there's anything wrong if they had it in town centre on as he says, on an industrial estate, and they're not keeping everybody away. I used to go dancing during the war. I did my jitterbugging, but I didn't keep half a black in the way it go, do
Was
it?
the jitterbug considered evil? Was the jitterbug not considered evil by your parents and wrong for you to do?
Of course it did, but I didn't keep
Unless
half
my
the black.
case from Strauss to House,
I didn't keep all the kids in Blackburn away while they were doing it.
Hang on, sorry, I think we missed your point.
I mean, to me, if you're having a good time, I'll have a good time, but don't keep me awake when you're doing it.
Right, okay, that's a fair enough point, isn't it?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
This gentleman's talking about he was disturbed from outside of a nightclub, which is legally bound by everything. He wasn't annoyed by an acid house party.
Look,
There's never been an acid house party anywhere near the man's house.
Look, the film that we showed was filmed very close to a residential area.
I'm not saying residents have not been annoyed and disturbed.
60 yards from people's houses,
Listen,
that was.
everybody here tonight, everybody who's in this side of the audience wants parties to be legalised. We want to talk to fire officers, we want to talk to policemen, we want to talk to councillors. We want a warehouse out of the way where it's not going to bother anybody. We don't want to hurt people, we don't want to do anything. We want policed, we want the fire officers to check it beforehand, we want to get
Okay, well, it all
legal raves off.
Well, that sounds simple enough. I mean, are you worried when you go to these parties? What would happen in a fire? Would you be able to get out?
Not at all,
Have you
because
ever
I've
worried
been to the
about that?
parties. A lot of people here haven't been to the parties. The parties are not run by idiots, the parties are checked.
Okay, but is anyone here who's ever been to a warehouse party been worried about how they get out in a fire?
More would it here. There's bigger escape doors than
We've had this building thoroughly checked for fire regulations.
The biggest
But none of you, none of you are worried about how you'd get out of a warehouse party. Okay. Should they be worried?
Yes, they ought to be. We've had one of the speakers remark that there's been no tragedy yet. Well, you're wrong.
There has.
There's been several hundred lives lost in nightclub fires.
Okay, hear him out, please.
Now, this was prior to any legislation being brought about. So they were in unlicensed premises that you've been performing in over the past few weeks in East Lancashire. Now, it may seem that you don't pay attention to these things, but you should do so. Now, it's clear from the video that we had a brief glimpse of a minute ago. There's only one small door available for access.
No.
Yes. There's one small door available for access. There's no means for calling the fire brigade. There's no means for fighting fire. There is no limit on the numbers that can get in there. Now, I personally have been very strict with the producer just before this has gone on air to make sure that we've stuck to the limits laid down by the local fire authority on the numbers that can actually come in this part of this premises.
But are you saying that these parties are a disaster waiting to happen? I mean, I've
Exactly,
heard that
that's what I'm trying to say. Now, I'm in charge of the fire service in East Lancashire, and these parties are a regular event in my area. And I am very, very, very worried that my fire officers will have to turn up one day, early hours of the morning, to deal with the remains of these people sitting here in front of us now.
Okay, Tommy,
now, what are you doing about that?
I agree that you're very, very worried, but you're obviously not worried enough to convince the government that legal raves are the answer. The feeling and the dancing is not going to go away, and as soon as everybody realises that, they're better for everybody. And then you can legalise them, and there's no problem with fire exits.
So, Mr. Hind, is that not a better solution to bring them into the open and make them safer?
This is what the bill that we've introduced actually does. What we're asking them to do, we're asking people like this gentleman who are promoting to apply for a licence. Perfectly proper. These people are entitled to be protected by the police, the fire service and safety regulations. They are not entitled to have their lives put in danger by, as we had in Blackburn the other day, an exit sign and the fire escape outside was removed and they would have fallen 40 feet if they'd have gone through it. That's the sort of thing that this gentleman wouldn't have tolerated. In addition, we've had 2 deaths in Leicester already.
Okay, well, we've got some councillors here, haven't we?
Yes.
I mean, what chance do you think there would be of licensing these sorts of premises?
Well, what I think the licensing authorities in some of the local areas should come out of the dark ages. I mean, I understand that residents have got fears. We should take that on board. But at the same point, we must bear in mind that these young people from the 1st of April are going to be community charge payers. And with that in mind, local decision makers have an obligation to see what they want. I mean, I went to...
Yeah. Okay, is there another councillor sitting next to you?
MP.
Yeah? Another councillor?
Well, yes, I just wonder, I'm listening to Tommy. Is he concerned with people enjoying himself, or is he concerned about the £5 a head that's going in? Because certainly at this stage, where is the safety in all this? It's all right, we're all laughing now. 300 people killed tomorrow night.
Can I say?
300 people killed tomorrow night, and there'll be a total outcry in this country.
Okay,
and
what
it's
about
too late
what
then.
about the profits? How much do you make out of organising?
Personally, I don't make anything. What I get out of it is a
Why would he not give us his name?
How much can be made out of organising a
How much
party?
can be made? I suppose if you were to charge everybody in, which never happens in the Black Band parties, more often than not, they're free, or like you pay a donation to keep the parties going.
£5 for the one that we filmed.
Yeah.
Well, why did they have
What about the
What
about the three before it?
£20,000.
What about the three before it, the one you filmed?
Well, the thing, what has been established, though, is that people are charged to get into them.
Yeah.
Someone is making a lot of money.
Yeah,
I suspect it's the people organising.
Somebody's making a lot of money, but that someone is not me.
£2 for a can of lager.
Getting the money then?
£2 for a can of lager, a fiver to go in.
Excuse me.
Let's have it out. This gentleman will not give us his name. Why will he not give us his name? Because he's in the black market. In the black market. He's outside.
I think he can answer for himself.
Wait a minute.
Tell me who's making the money.
Wait a minute.
What is your name?
Let me deal with
Tell
this
us
chap
what your
first.
name is.
My name's Thomas. What is your name?
I'm Kenneth.
It's not £2 for a can of lager.
What's your surname?
It's not £2 for a can of lager because they don't sell alcohol on the premises. It is not allowed.
Not in private.
Okay, I think that is...
Alcohol is a thing of the past. That's what you can't handle. You can't handle all these people, mixed races getting together and not fighting. That is a problem. What do you fear? What do you fear of letting it go?
What do you take instead of alcohol?
What do I take? Nothing. Instead of alcohol?
Why?
I don't need anything.
Look at
Why take anything?
How many people have been arrested at acid house
I
parties
don't
for
need to take
possession
anything
of
instead of
drugs?
alcohol. I'm high on hope. I'm high on hope. I don't need anything. Drugs or alcohol.
Okay, so you're saying you don't need alcohol, you don't need drugs.
Certainly not.
Are you saying that there are no drugs at these parties?
No. Well, I have never seen them. You see
You've
me
never
there is
seen
drugs at
any
the
drugs
parties.
at these parties?
Police
have seen them. They've arrested people with them.
And if they've found drugs in the nightclub, they've arrested people in there. You know what I mean? What are we saying? Why are we the victims of discrimination? What is getting feared here? What is the problem?
Okay, let's hear from some of the people who go to the parties again, right? Now, what about, I mean, have you seen drugs at these parties?
No.
Never?
No.
Why'd you go?
I don't look
Why'd you
for
go?
them. That's probably why I never see them.
Okay.
Excuse me, do you see what
If you
we're up
want
against
drugs.
there? When she said there was no drugs on sale at parties, I should never see them. The lady over there shouted she must be telling lies.
No, but come on, let's try and establish why you go. What is it about?
Who wants to dance?
Right, one at a time.
To dance the music.
Right, to dance. Yeah?
I think it's fair to say that there are drugs at some of these parties. If you want drugs, you can go and find drugs. But you can go to any nightclub the same way and go to any party and go. And if you're looking for drugs, you'll be able to find someone selling drugs.
Okay, gentleman next to you.
See, the thing is, right, you're going to find drugs wherever you go. You can find it, like you said, at a club, a wine bar, a restaurant. If you put yourself out, you can find it. Now, if you're not into that, right, and then there's no need, the music's enough for you. Right, but the point what I really want to make is, right, why is it that money is being made such a high issue, right? Because well, it seems to be every time you're speaking, it seems to be money. But can I just say something? Listen, you was allowed to speak. You was allowed to speak.
Hang on.
You have died. Money is you have died.
Money is
You're being
one at a
exploited.
Hang on, one at a time. Okay, you in the green, you're obviously anxious to make a point. Do you feel you're being exploited?
No, I do not feel I'm being exploited. I feel I'm being exploited by this government for stupid things like poll tax and irrelevant things like that. If they're so bothered about crime, they spend, what was the average cost? Over 1,000 men on this is a boasting fact at the Black Band parties. We don't care. We're on £24 an hour overtime money. Why don't they use that money to crack down on serious crime? Child molesters,
Hind, what's your
rapers.
reaction to that?
Well, I would like to see them enjoy and dance the night away if they want to, but legally. The point that this gentleman made here was that there were drugs found in a nightclub. Fine, that nightclub is subject to the law. The law protects you while you're in that nightclub.
Hang on,
but
because
not here.
I'm
Not
sorry
in the acid house
to
party.
interrupt you because there we have to leave it just for now. We'll be coming back in a minute after the break We'll be hearing from a couple of heroes of the youth movements of the 60s, Simon D. and the Folkestone hippie Jim Kirk, who was jailed during the Summer of Love. Welcome back. Well, is Acid House really new or just another in a long line of youth movements? For anyone of my age or older, Simon D, of course, will be a very familiar face. Is it much different from what was going on in the 60s?
No, of course it's not any different. Never any different. Marriage and taxes come to us all, and until they come, I think youngsters should have fun. That's the first thing. The second thing is, all this rhubarb that's being talked by everyone. I mean, we're in the Midlands here, and there must be...
no, not quite. We're north of Watford, but we're not in the Midlands.
You guys. It's in the middle of the land, isn't it? It's the middle.
But are you saying that it's the generation gap, then, that's the problem?
No, you said that. I didn't say that.
No? Oh, sorry, I thought it was what you were saying.
No, there are a lot of empty warehouses around the Upper Midlands. And it's quite possible that we could isolate them, get them cleaned up. They can have as many fire doors as they want. They can have anything they want. Just provide them and let the kids have fun.
Let's do it. Okay, it's very... All right, I know it's a very popular view. Jim Kirk, how about you?
I think this whole problem could be solved by enlightened legislation and communication between
Perhaps you'd
all
better
parties
explain
concerned.
exactly. I mean, you got into trouble with the authorities
20
for trying
years
to have
ago,
fun.
I belonged to a colourful community of youths who made a lot of noise and meant no harm to anybody, and we wore outrageous clothes like some of these people. I'm an old fogey now, but I remember it, and it made me very sad because harmless young people were repressed and ultimately criminalised, and I hate to see it happening again. It grieves me. One more point. Now, the legislation being put forward by this honourable man, this MP here, is to me repressive. And I want to know why they can't have a more enlightened attitude. It seems to me repressive and draconian. Why don't you try and communicate with these people?
Okay,
I believe these people are okay, and I think you should too, and that should be your point of departure.
Mr. Hind, I'm sure you'd like to come in on that.
I happen to think they're okay too.
I have nothing against you personally.
I was one of the people that was like you.
No.
Hang on.
In 1971, I was chairman of Leeds University's Entertainment Committee. I promoted the concert, which was the best-selling album in the world of that year, The Who Live at Leeds.
What was that?
And I've also promoted concerts involving the Rolling Stones, Elton John, all sorts of the big names, Paul McCartney. And I can say to you, I did it inside the law. Why can't he?
May I reply to you?
Hang on.
I don't want to hold
Ken,
the
what
debate.
you're saying is that you were young once, but you can be young, you can have a good time and not break the law.
I had a great time. I went to the Isle of Wight Pop Festival. I went to the Pop Festival at Windsor.
You were young once.
Okay, well, I know. We've got another MP in here as well tonight, I know. Now, would you go along with that?
I think the most important aspect is the aspect of safety. Nobody's against young people enjoying themselves. We want them to enjoy themselves. But in the knowledge that they can do so in safety. Yes, providing it's done in the right place and they follow the licensing laws so that their lives aren't at risk. I can see we're going to come back in a few weeks' time when there's been a major tragedy and lives have been lost, and then people will say, why didn't somebody do something? And that's what we're trying to do, to let people enjoy the dancing in safety. That's all we are trying to do.
So you would support efforts to make them legal, all-night parties legal?
Yes.
As long as they don't infringe upon other people.
People as well, that's right.
Now, I know you're anxious to come in as well. Would you go along with that as well? You're here from the National Council for Civil Liberties.
The main thing I'm concerned about is the policing of these parties, which is excessive and in fact is adding to the dangers. If the police are involved, it reminds me when roadblocks, I'm from the National Council for Civil Liberties and we believe in the rights of people for freedom of assembly. The roadblocks that are set up to try and stop youth from going to parties reminds me of the miners' strike.
But
I'm
is
very
it therefore
concerned.
better to make these parties legal
I think it's better to make them legal, yes.
rather than
obviously.
force them further
And they
underground?
can be legal. They
Okay,
can be
so
legal.
Mr. Hind?
Under our bill, they can be legal by the promoters applying for a licence. We're not stopping them. Apply for a licence. That's what
Okay,
we're
so
saying.
why do you say no way?
Well, because the council won't give us a licence. After the media hype that's gone on over the last 2 years and all the rumours that go around and the reputation that's been gained, I can't see after this bill goes through a local council granting us a licence. Even after the safety conditions have been met, the fire officers have been around, the environmental health people have been around.
Okay,
it won't happen.
would you grant them a licence?
Providing they fulfilled all the criteria laid down. That is to say that that it was away from residents and the public amenities, and also the safety precautions were adhered to.
Party all night?
Why
Possibly for 2
not?
nights?
Why not? I think
As long as it doesn't
also,
interfere with anybody else.
if the licensing laws
face it,
were
like-
extended,
But the local authority's never done that up until now. Why should they start doing it now?
Because this hasn't
Can we ask how many
arisen until now.
applications?
But it has.
how many
I mean, these parties
applications
are
have
going
been
on.
submitted? How many applications have been submitted to local licensing authorities? None at all.
Why don't you apply?
I worked for Sunrise and we made 5 applications over the last years. Never were we turned down on a safety ground at all. We had the fire officers go around, no problems there. It was always a technicality, conspiracy to cause a major public nuisance, public entertainment acts. It was always technicalities, never
But
safety.
nonetheless, you have to bear those in mind. Yeah,
So
the
why
fundamental
do you
point.
think you're being turned down? What's the main problem? You're saying it's not safety.
It's not safety because the major promoters take care of the safety aspects. They have to, because a fire officer can come in, as this man will tell you, and he can stop it straight away if we don't follow the safety aspects.
So you're saying it's because of the numbers involved?
I think it's numbers, and I think it's also just concern on the part of local authorities. They're just scared and they don't want it on their patch.
For your safety.
Right, so not
concern for your safety.
Concern for your
I think it's absolutely disgusting
it's concern
how
for your
you're
safety.
decrying
Surely
the
that's
police.
quite nice of them, isn't it?
We get public liability insurance, and our insurance company goes around. I mean, I can't speak for Tommy what he does, but we have our insurance company goes around. They send a fire officer around. Then the local authority sends in a fire officer, and usually they get an injunction out. For instance, on New Year's Eve, they got an injunction against us on the grounds of it was a public entertainment, not a private entertainment. Who were we going to disturb in a field 3 miles away from the nearest village on New Year's Eve?
Did you apply for a licence?
Okay. So, but you're saying that you would consider giving...
Yes, I'm saying we would. And in fact, the leader of the council, only last week, when I brought it up at full council, gave the go-ahead. He said if some entrepreneur or somebody came forward to this authority and gave an indication that they would adhere to the rules, he could see no immediate problems in granting a licence.
Well, I wonder if we've got somewhere on that. Ken Hind, let me just put it to you that if you were 100% sure that these weren't a fire risk, that they were away from people, who are upset by the noise.
I'm all for people enjoying themselves.
So,
and if it's within the
so you
law...
wouldn't oppose them if they fell into those categories?
Of course not, because it's legal. And they would meet the requirements of the entertainment's licence, which is the cornerstone of this legislation.
Do you accept that?
Certainly not. I don't accept anything you said yet. Many of the requirements have been made before. Events such as Joy 2, Pulse or Live the Dream, and anybody that's been involved in the organisation of these events have been consequently prosecuted. And most of them around curfews, which is another serious breach of civil liberties. Anybody that seems to have contact with these parties is singled out for discrimination, curfews and all sorts of draconian events. Well, they really need to realise that it's not going to go away, and we have to get together and talk, and they'll accept we are here to stay.
But you're saying, aren't you, that these parties are going to go on, whatever changes in the law are made? That's what your
They're going to go on
stance is.
and on and on until...
It almost sounds to me
as
as if you're more determined that they're going to go on because of the stance that the authorities are taking.
No, really, we don't have to be more determined because what we're doing, and already we believe in it, we don't have to be more determined. They're only a mere distraction, and when they see our point of view, the way they're thinking is over, those days are finished. People won't go home at 2 o'clock now. They want to choose their own form of entertainment, and they'll go out and do it with or without their legislation.
Okay, let's find out from some of the people who go. Will you carry on going?
Yeah, I think the parallel that you want to draw is with prohibition in the United States. When the government there tried to make alcohol illegal, it didn't stop people taking alcohol. It just meant that people drunk alcohol that was bad, that was dangerous, that could have made them ill, and they carried on regardless, and it led organised crime to get involved. If you make it legal, if you make it safe, then people are going to be able to enjoy themselves in a happy atmosphere. If you make it illegal, if if you make it illegal, you cause trouble. And what I'd like to ask Ken Hind is, he says that his bill is designed in order to help people make it legal. That's absolute nonsense. All your bill does is increase the penalties for people who hold unlicensed events. When are you going to do something? When are you going to do something to actually help make these parties legal?
Ken, very quickly, come back on that.
We have done that to force people to apply for licences, to make them safe, make them orderly, and stop the drug dealing. That's what we've done it for. If any legitimate promoter has nothing to fear from our bill at all.
All right, okay. Well, thank you very much indeed for all being so upfront with your opinions tonight. I'm afraid that's where we have to leave it. I know it goes very quickly. But thank you. Thank you. Well, I know you're all planning your next party, but can you hang on, because we haven't quite finished. That is it for this week. One footnote, though. On last week's programme, we told the moving story of Mandy Turner, the young woman with cancer from Ashton-under-Lyne, who hopes to raise £1 million for a hospital scanner before she dies. Thousands of you called in after the programme, and the appeal now stands at £232,475. That's up £35,000 in a week. So thank you very much indeed for everyone who contributed to that. We'll leave you, though, with the sounds which still may be available at a warehouse near you in the weeks to come. Good night.